So I'm Hector Negron. I'm the CEO of Optimus Business Transformation. And today we're having an event around migrating from GP to Business Central. So first, I'm going to start with a couple of slides here. And these are food for thought. And then I'm going to do this later on to our presentation. I'm just going to move around. I like moving around a little bit. We have a public here, by the way, all of you who are joining us through Facebook Live and everybody that's joining us from Zoom. So I want to start out with Walter Deming. Walter Deming is considered the father of Japanese economics. He's also one of the guys who developed the TQM, Total Quality Management methodology or creator. He's also a well-renowned data scientist, actually one of the biggest economic recognition awards in the US is the Walter Deming Award. Mark Twain said that if you have more than one clock, you will never have the correct time. And that relates to data, to systems too. When we have two different systems, basically what happens is if you have data on warehouse management and inventory on one side and then data on the other side, you'll probably, while it syncs, right? It's called syncing. You're going to have data in two different places. So we're always looking for having one source, one truth. So here's a quick introduction on who's Optimus. Optimus is a company headquartered in Miami, Florida, and I'll explain in a second where else we're located. Optimus, we're dedicated to certain verticals. Our most, let's say, strongest verticals are food and beverage, retail, consumer packaged goods, hospitality, grocery. We're also pretty strong in utilities, airports, and financial services. We're Microsoft Gold certified. We're also LS Retail Gold now for 3 straight years, Power BI Black Belt. So we do have all these different, let's say, awards and accolades that, let's say, typically renowned companies have as a proof of testament of the team's hard work. As I mentioned, we are located in Miami, Florida, our headquarters. We're also here in Jamaica and Trinidad and Peru and Mexico, Orlando, Florida. We're just opened up recently, Argentina. We provide different business solutions, as you're seeing up there, from ERP to CRM, e-commerce, unified commerce, social distancing. So, true story. We actually started having all these remote solutions and e-commerce and pickup and delivery, and right way before actually COVID started. So we actually had most of our people were already working hybrid. You can come to the office, you can work from home. Before COVID, people used to say that we were crazy, but I think our business model has proven to help others out. So today's agenda, what we're interested in is, first thing, history and clarification of what's Microsoft Dynamics in 3 minutes or less, why you need a modern ERP system, how does Dynamics 365 Business Central compare to GP, and what's a hybrid? And we'll touch briefly bases. Then we're going to switch off all of our online assistants, I think participants. We had something over 500 people confirm via Facebook Live and other mediums that they're participating at this time. So the presentation is going to start with a 30,000-foot view. Then we're going to land the plane and explain these different concepts. So I know a lot of you who use Dynamics GP, Great Plains, SL, we've all had these questions, you know, what's SL? What's GP? What's Great Plains? What's Real World? What's CRM? It changed names. What's Axapta, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, you know, all these systems at their given time had what we call their reasons of being. You can't fit a square peg in a round hole. So I color coded this. This is an Optimus slide. I color coded this so all of you, it's easier to relate when we compare GP and we compare Navision. So it's a comparison. It's not who's better than the other. So Business Central, GP, they both started out in the 80s. Additional to that, in around the year 2001, Microsoft completed the acquisition of Great Plains. Great Plains, a little bit before that, had acquired Solomon. So Solomon was part of Great Plains. Around the same time, a year later, 2002, Microsoft acquired Damgard Navision, who had acquired Axapta before. Now, let's start fast forwarding in time. Around the year 2005, 2006, Microsoft did a change in branding. So Great Plains became Dynamics GP, Navision became Dynamics Nav, AX became Dynamics AX, and Solomon became Dynamics SL. So they're all the same system, just a different name. Also, when all these acquisitions happened originally around the year 2001, 2002, Navision was primarily in Europe. So big install base in Europe. Then we had GP in the US. So US, Caribbean, and some Latin American countries like, in this case, Argentina, Colombia, Mexico, Central America, there were heavy GP users. The only exception on NAV, Business Central, and this side of the world was something called Dynamics Nav in Mexico and in Colombia. So that's the only place you really found Navision, with some minor exceptions. So you had about 700 customers and 1,000 customers in Navision AX in the US and the Caribbean. When the acquisitions happened, it's something like 45, 50,000 in GP alone in the US and in the Caribbean. And the same numbers apply the other way around. Primarily in the UK and in Ireland, you have about 1,000 GP customers over there, but you have 45, 50,000 NAV customers. So Navision is really NAV, is really a European system, and that's important as we move forward. In around 2016, Microsoft started playing around with the branding 365, Office 365. 2018, Dynamics Nav, which was Navision, it's now called Dynamics Business Central. So let's do a turnaround. Dynamics Business Central is really Dynamics Nav. AX got rebranded to 365 FinOps. FinOps, Finance and Operations, it really doesn't refer to a functionality per se. Microsoft's referring to a different product called AX. So I know this is confusing. I have some additional visual aids to help everybody out. Now, on the GP side, GP stayed GP. Basically, after, let's say, 2016, the only thing GP got no rebranding, but let's say of this new wave of ERPs, is it got a little bit of a web user interface option, but it's not truly web. On the flip side, Business Central started getting Microsoft's 365 technology, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, everything else. So this is me scribbling. It's not my daughter. And I color coded it so it would help everybody out because it is confusing. Dynamics CRM, which was originally Microsoft CRM, which got rebranded to Microsoft CRM Online, and only government can now use it on-premise. Everybody else needs to use it online, which then got rebranded to Customer Engagement, which is now rebranded to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Sales and Marketing. Navision, as you're seeing there in red, Microsoft added all this advanced workflow, AI, BI that I already mentioned. It's Business Central, and AX is FinOps. So another visual aid here, what's moving to the front so we can compare products and we know where we are. Dynamics 365, which was Axapta, which is now 365 FinOps, is more of an enterprise software. So if you have less than 50 concurrent users, forget about the system. It's too expensive. This is more like an SAP type of system. Let's put it this way, if you're gonna run this on premise, you need around 26 servers. So primarily bigger companies have this system. It's like if you have a distribution company, you need a van deliver. You end up buying a big truck to run that route. So it's more on the SAP level, the Oracle Cloud level. Then Dynamics 365 Business Central, it's more of a mid-market. So think Acumatica, Sage, ACPAC, NetSuite, Mass 90 is more that level. Difference. AX does not scale down. Business Central does scale up. We have customers that have over 1,000 Business Central users, and this is back from the NAV side. So again, Business Central can scale up. We'll be using the analogy of we experience. So Dynamics 365, what it is, Navision, Nav, it's really a full ERP that has everything from project management to finance, etc. So now what's Microsoft Dynamics 365? Again, this is my drawing. Trying to find easier ways of explaining things. So now that we're understanding where everything's coming from, now we're going to where everything's going to. So Dynamics 365 is, and I made this term up, is a MERP, right? We have MPOS, which refers to modern point of sale. It's a industry recognized term, and it's really talking about a point of sale that's more user friendly and more robust and better in the eye. The same thing with a MERP. Which is a modern ERP. If you look up the term, you won't find it. So we're going to have to trademark that one. So Dynamics 365 is really Business Central with CRM. You don't need to license the whole thing. As you're seeing there, the little circles. It's a lot of rebranding from Microsoft. And they're coexisting. Microsoft has been stitching them together. So think about sewing. Then tightly integrated to all of that, you have the options of Office 365 and Microsoft Teams. Now Microsoft's investing a lot on this modern workplace and working from anywhere, any place, and even a cubicle. So you can be sitting in a different floor in your offices or in a cubicle. You don't have to walk over to a colleague and sit down. You can with Teams, etc., share screens and work more efficiently. Then also stitched and sold in there, we have Power BI, Power Apps, and I know that a lot of the Microsoft branding Power Apps covers all of this. So I'm overextending it, but again, there's so much branding involved here. I want all of us to understand. And then Azure Business Intelligence and Machine Learning. So this is Dynamics 365. It's Microsoft taking all of that for you, putting it all together, and making it friendly for the masses, or applying economies of scale. Before, we were doing this 5, 10, 15 years ago, but it was extremely expensive in order to get all of that. So again, one source, one truth. If you saw that stitching together, everything's running out of one database, one data source. So we get one truth, and like Mark Twain said, right, instead of working with multiple watches or clocks, we also work from the same clock. And as Walter Deming said, also, he said that without data, we have an opinion. And I'll be covering that in a second. So those of you who are in GP and Solomon, I know there's confusion, there's a lot of anxiety, planning that needs to be done. When should we do this? When should we move? And this, I'd say, is the first compelling event that starts giving us a timeline. So the first thing is, you don't need to get out of this workshop and go running and now I need to upgrade. There's time, right? But there isn't time 2 years from now or a year from now to start taking a look at things. We need to start taking a look at things today, but we don't have to rush into this. So Microsoft has something called, and applies to Office and everything else, as a modern life cycle and as the fixed life cycle. Fixed is what you guys had in GPE and Solomon and SL and the other ERP system where you paid a yearly fee, maintenance fee or an enhancement fee. Then you got rights to upgrades and updates and all of that you can install whenever you want. But if you were on a supported version, you could call Microsoft if your partner can help you. Let's say systems are down, you could call Microsoft supporting. Also, Microsoft would release service packs once in a while, right? And that service pack, without having a commitment, the service pack could help with updates and let's say performance or bugs, etc. So that's the old fixed life cycle. The modern life cycle is what Microsoft uses in Office right now. So I'm going to make this very simple. Let's start with Office. We all use Office. 98% of the world uses it. Big percentage of the world uses Microsoft Office 365. How many of you here? So we have an audience here, Facebook and Zoom and Teams, people who are following this presentation. How many of you guys here use Office 365? So yeah, and how many of you use Office 365 and the regular Office? Here, everybody, right? So basically, in Office 365, what happens, that you're using it and you get a message, hey, you have to download something, right? And it happens frequently. And like once every 6 months, you get something that, says download me. And when you download, it starts sending you messages. Now, a ribbon changed, or instead of copy paste, now it says paste copy, right? So that's kind of like a minor update. So Microsoft's following this. So the key dates are May and November. So every May and every November, now in Dynamics, Microsoft also releases a minor update. Hold for that thought. So I want to put everybody here in perspective. You have GP, you have Nav, you have Solomon. Most of the people here have GP. So basically what this tells us is anybody in GP 2013 and more recent still has extended support. What's extended support and Main Street support? We talked about life cycle a second ago. So extended support, what that means is it's a lifeline, right? I'm in the hospital and the monitor's going beep, 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 right? And the patient's gonna pass away. So that's extended support. Microsoft is just keeping it alive. Something happens, there's no bug fixes. If you have an emergency, you can pay Microsoft a lot of money. If your partner, we can't help you with it. And they may, and the word may is be able to help you with something. But there's no improvement, no stability into the system. Mainstream support is what Microsoft typically had, which is the current version and the last version where they supported it. So you still got bug fixes and certain updates. And if, let's say your system went down and, we need Microsoft, they come in. We have over 100 GP customers in our install base. And I can tell you, we only have to go to Microsoft once or twice a year at the most. So, that's the mainstream support. So when we take a look at this, everybody who has 2016 back now has no mainstream support. And only the people in GP 2018 have mainstream support for less than 6 months. So in 6 months, GP 2018 will not have mainstream support. We have to move to 18.3 or 18. So I like a lot of visual aids, as I told you. And this is actually out of a Microsoft website. So this is another way of visualizing all of this. Fixed life cycle, the old life cycle, it's gone. Right now, Microsoft started with the modern life cycle, and it's in GP 18.3, 18.4. And after 6 months, Microsoft expects everybody to be, if you're staying on GP 18.4, or moving to Business Central. But it doesn't mean that, an asteroid is going to hit Earth and dinosaurs and humans are going to go extinct either. Extinct. This is the website, by the way. Seeing some of you also taking pictures, you can request a point. We will not put it online. There's a lot of content and IP from us and analysis in this, so we're not. We do get a lot of competitors trying to get our stuff. So you can send us an email, and people who are out there, you were invited also to our operations department. You have their email. You can request this, and we can send this PowerPoint. So this is one of the sources where we got a lot of the information to the history. Now, this is actually a Microsoft website, what we have here. And in this website, you can see this is Microsoft support and lifecycle website. I circled the word upgrade for GP, and look what Microsoft is recommending. So, Microsoft itself, it's putting GP on that, say, lifeline right now, support, and basically, their recommendations is to move over, and we have time to move people over. So you can change that. I already explained this slide. So 3 minutes or less. Why do we need Business Central? Why do we need a modern ERP? So this is actually our content. This is not a Microsoft slide or anything. Our team did this, and our analysts. Something interesting has happened. It's not happening. And it is social media sites. If you consider them a country, they become bigger than China. By the way, this recently came out in the last 2 or 3 weeks in the news. India is going to take over China as the biggest country population, but Facebook is still going to have the biggest, let's say, population in the world. So this data, Facebook, Uber, that's Airbnb. This is actually old, and we know how Airbnb, I'm in Jamaica. We know how Airbnb is transforming real estate in Jamaica, and even Kingston, which is not a big tourist area. Airbnbs are helping Kingston with that. So, and that technology is actually old here. Telephone took 75 years to reach 50 million people. Angry Birds 35. So Airbnb, Uber, they don't own cars or property. And they're actually the biggest taxi company and hotel company in the world. So the way how we're doing business is changing. The way how we're communicating is also different. A phone versus a cell phone, texting, letters, TV sets, how we're consuming content has completely changed. How we're living, how we're evolving. And by the way, I did order, and I'm waiting from Amazon for my bot. So I like to test all these things out. So pretty soon I'll have a robot at home. May end up not having a wife anymore if the robot doesn't give me a hard time. So and basically things are moving very, very quickly. Technology has made it available, and Jamaica may have 3 million people, but most Jamaicans belong to Facebook, and they're part of a 2 billion plus population. and we're still getting content through there. So we need a platform. We need a business way of communicating to, in this case, Jamaica, where I'm at. It's not only through traditional ways of communicating and doing business before. We need to incorporate that in our day-to-day way we do business, and also within our ERPs and our CRM softwares. And we need to be digital. So digital is no longer an option. Digital is a must, if we as businesses want to move forward. And Microsoft couldn't invest at a given time. There was a reason of having 4 ERPs: AX, Nav, Solomon, and GP Great Plains. Now there isn't, and it's too costly to move 4 different systems to be able to manage this whole new world that we live in. So that's the reason why Microsoft, they went in there, and actually Rodolfo Gonzalez Llanos, he was the second Microsoft employee when Microsoft acquired for the Dynamics division. When Microsoft acquired, it's called Microsoft Business Solutions, MBS, when Microsoft did the acquisition. So Rodolfo will later talk a little bit of why first GP and Nav, and why Microsoft made that decision.
Can't see the whole thing. Tell what you're looking at. Microsoft Dynamics 365 helps you see the data, your entire business, one place, giving you insights powered by AI to unlock potential you never knew was there. Microsoft Dynamics 365 helps you see all of the pictures so you can create your own possibility.
So I'm going to go over a couple of concepts so we know how this works, right? Software as a service, SaaS, versus on premises, and then there's all these price lists, and we sit down with a sales guy or salesperson, and and we get all these concepts. So before jumping into them, I want to explain or give these concepts a definition. And the first definition is user interface. Web. So user interface is the screen work with a system, right? In the case of Business Central, it's 100% web-based. Responsive means that I can open it up in a tablet, and a monitor, and a laptop, and a phone, and the system adapts to that. In this case, Microsoft has pure software as a service, which basically means they manage that environment for you. So software as a service is, I'm Microsoft, I'm Oracle, I'm SAP. I write the code, I'm your manufacturer, but I also manage that environment for you. Now, GP is purely desktop application. It has a partial web client, partial. It's not complete to the whole functionality of the system. And you can't do a lot of things that you can naturally do. It's not adaptive or responsive either. So it's more, I call it a Band-Aid that was done like 5 years ago. So we're gonna change some screens here quickly, so you're just seeing a little bit. And over here, how you access the system, one thing I do want to add to the whole web browser is Business Central also has a mobile app. So you can download it on your iPhone, your Android, and you can also use the system from an app. So let's get into definitions. Perpetual. So we keep on hearing this term perpetual in software. It's not only a Microsoft term, it's all over. Perpetual means that you buy the system, and you're not obligated to pay a yearly maintenance or enhancement fee. That's what perpetual is. Subscription is rent, is lease. And with subscription, you can get some value-added services, like when we can rent a car, and sometimes when we lease a car, we can get oil changes, and with a fee we're paying on a monthly basis, and sometimes we just pay the car with no oil changes. So that's subscription. On-premise, On-premise means the server is mine. Where I put the system, it's mine. I can always rent the server. Let's get complicated here. But on-premise basically says it's mine. I buy it. It's perpetual is on-premise. And then on cloud, it basically refers to what it's also called software as a service. This is complicated, which basically says the server is not mine, rent the server. We just rent everything from the manufacturer. So that's on cloud. And that's what NetSuite and Salesforce and Microsoft and the whole industry is headed to. So very important. On Business Central and GB, you have one option. You buy it, it's perpetual. On Business Central today, and that could change, you can buy it, then run it anywhere you want, on premise in your offices or on Amazon or Azure, wherever you want it, or you have the on-cloud, the SaaS. So there's different things. Our experience right now dealing with customers and involved in analysis and evaluations right now, about 60%, 60, of the Caribbean, Latin American, US customers, they're going with the on-cloud where Microsoft manages everything, and 40% are still buying it perpetually. But it is increasing. There are certain aspects to it, like we have hurricanes in the Caribbean, like data privacy. I'll call Sam, taking a look at our information. So there's different considerations, not just technology, that goes into the decision process. GB is only on premise, but in order to get all this artificial intelligence, machine learning, which we'll talk a little bit about it a little further along, you do need to be on the cloud, because the amount of data churning and processing you need, you either get the 26 servers talked about earlier, or you're just going to have to run it somewhere else. So can you go back one slide? Okay. So on a SaaS and on this modern life cycle, very important. So let's start with GP. GP is not SaaS, so Microsoft won't do anything for you. But GP is on the modern life cycle, which is the May, November, and monthly. So Microsoft, under the new program, you or your partner for GP and Solomon has to install the minor updates manually, right? So that's an expense for you guys, either an internal expense from your employees or from us. There still has to be testing involved, and it's a mini project. That's if you're going to stay current a version. When you're on the cloud and Microsoft's managing this, they do it for you, May and November, so you don't have to pay consulting fees. They do some checks. Microsoft is also doing what's called telemetry. Telemetry is before you get performance or errors in your system, they're checking up ahead, and they're minimizing. And the other thing is you get on a monthly basis, just like you get in Office. Microsoft is pushing security patches and performance patches. Microsoft is also installing that when you're on the cloud. And again, you don't need to have the hardware. I already discussed this. This is more information. You can use these slides as a white paper. So again, what I mentioned, you do get machine learning when you're on cloud. It's part of the monthly fees. And can you forward this video to where it hits 4 minutes? We went to 4 minutes. Look at it right there. So that's a video, machine learning and AI and all of that. When you request a PowerPoint, you can get a demo from our consultants. But I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is going to consume too much time, and some people are going to fall asleep. Victor, if you want to just jump in. Yeah, it's okay. Go to the next one. So there's an embedded demo there for all of you. So on the, and then we're going to go quickly through this. So follow my lead. So you do get machine learning for inventory and forecast in Business Central. So it's checking up on your inventory. So before purchasing manager has to run a requisition because you're running out of purchasing item, the system is actually telling the purchasing manager, hey, you're going to start running, you're going to start running out of this inventory item. There's also machine learning for cash flow forecast. So basically, you have somebody in accounts or you have your controller working on the system, and before they run a cash flow report and do their analysis, the system is saying, hey, Steve, in 2 weeks, you're going to run out of cash. You better start collecting money or get a loan from the bank. So the system is actually getting involved and giving you a heads up in your operation. Something else you get with Dynamics 365 Business Central is a very tight integration to Office 365. So, for example, an Outlook is syncing, or your Outlook and Office is syncing with the ERP system, is one of the examples. Another example is on the Power BI side right now, so when you're in GP, you're running in GP, and then you either send something to an email or you try to convert it to a Word doc to Excel. How the system works, and this is a good example of it, is you're inside of Outlook. And as you can see here in the left-hand side, you'll see Business Central. So within Outlook, you can open up Business Central within the email without having to be opening up and going from. So that integration is really embedded. It's inside of the system. On the Power BI side, how Microsoft had it in GP is you had to, anything you ran in Power BI you wanted to do with GP, that would be on a Power BI website. How Microsoft has it now in 365 Business Central is Power BI is embedded. It's inside of the website. So the service is coexisting and living. It's not website versus having everything in GP. So Microsoft's R&D, they stopped putting efforts and money into GP with Power BI and everything else is sitting over here at this point in time. And you saw these forecasting and AI and machine learning. Microsoft's R&D is headed over there. So there's going to be more and more machine learning throughout the system as the system progresses. On the CRM side, some of you who have GP and CRM, there's 20 third parties out there and programming and manual process of getting it together. In the case of 365, there's already a pre-integration, and there's a framework where you start, let's say, integrating the more. Business Central has PayPal integration. On the Shopify side, there's also tools on the Shopify side. Also, Optimus has a connector between Shopify and GP, Shopify Business Central. We also have a connector with Magento to GP and Magento to Business Central. So, we also have some additional tools even for the GP side of things. Development is very important. For those of you who are users, sometimes you want to ask your IT department to get you this or all the information, or you have to reconcile this, and the IT guys say, well, it's expensive, it has to go over to development, right? On the IT side, on the GP side, remember when we mentioned that these systems were built in the 80s. So the development tools we have in GP were actually built in the 80s. So you're talking about dexterity, you're talking about very old technology for development versus Business Central. The year 2018, Microsoft upgraded the development tools within the ERP, and they're called AL, and it's part of the .NET, and it's object-based, so for the technology people, you're understanding what I'm saying. For the non-technology people, it's like driving a 1980 Corolla and now having a 2023 Corolla. So it's night and day. Reliable, both of them are reliable. Just one is more modern. Already discussed that. So on the functionality basis, both systems are organized very similarly. And again, I'm going to be going through a lot of these PowerPoints a little bit quicker, right? Both systems are organized, finance and AP and GL. So the organizational structure is what you're used to also for the Solomon side of things. On the licensing, and by the way, a lot of what I'm saying GP applies to Solomon. So on the licensing, GP and SL, again, it's only on premise. And on the licenses side on Business Central, you have both frameworks as discussed before. But once we start taking a look at the prices and doing the math, it could come out. So when you buy a software, right, perpetual or on premise, you have to put a lot of money up front and then have your annual maintenance. On the Business Central side, it's just a monthly payment. Right? It starts out at 70 US. It's available for Jamaica. We do have the localization. Microsoft keeps on expanding it. They just expanded the Caribbean and a lot of the countries in Central America and South America recently. Where it's been the longest is in the US, then Canada, UK, Germany, and a lot of the tier one European countries. But remember also for that $70, you get the hardware, you get the AI, you get the machine learning, you get the Power BI integration. Something they do need to clarify here, just like always, you still have to buy from Microsoft, from Microsoft, the Office 365 license for each person. And in some cases, not all of them, Office now includes, depending on the licensing model, now includes Power BI. So in some cases, but it's a very minimal fee. So something I'm going to go very quickly through here, right? Remember I said a second ago, they're all organized similarly. GB had starter pack. Now it's called Essentials, Starter, Essentials. It's like synonyms, right? So basically they're structured the same. Premium packages and GB Extended Pack, that's when GB SL got more expensive, Navision got more expensive. The biggest difference is manufacturing and field services. So if your organization is going to do manufacturing and or field services, both in GP and Business Central, you are or were supposed to pay, let's say an additional fee. So the structures are there. I've moved already like almost 40 people in our organization from GPSL, NAV, or licensing to the new one. And I can tell you, I think we only had 1 or 2 cases where they had to pay a nominal fee to get all this Business Central licensing. Also, right now, there are some guarantees if you're current on your GP maintenance and you want to go to Nav and you're on premise and you want to go to Nav on premise or Business Central on premise. I'd say I think we only had 1 case. Somebody had to pay something nominal. Microsoft is trading that in. If you want to move from GP on premise to Business Central, Dynamics 365 on the cloud, Microsoft at this point is exchanging users and providing the services for what you pay on a yearly basis for GP. And they're holding to that commitment, I think, for 3 or 4 years. So you can move to the cloud, get rid of your hardware, all those other expenses, and Microsoft's still guaranteeing, hey, you're not going to pay more than what you're paying for GP or SL now. So Microsoft's really making it easy. As I tell people, they're not doing you a favor. Every time Microsoft gets more and more people on the cloud, Wall Street increases its value and its stocks. So, they're not doing us a favor. They're going to make the money, if not in revenue, they're going to make it in stock valuation. So, but for us, the customers, it's a pretty good deal right now. And that deal it's not going to be for long. They never are. So you can move to the on-premise, on cloud, and it's like changing your 19, if you go to a dealer right now and you have your 1980 Toyota and you want the new Corolla and you want the 2023 Corolla, the dealer say, okay, I'll give you 2,000-3,000 for it, pay the difference. Literally what's happening here, Microsoft is give me your 1980 Corolla and I'll give you the 2023 one. So, it's a very good deal. This is more summaries of what I already stated. Something very important is everybody who's on GPSL, the old nav, we all know getting information from Microsoft, the knowledge base was terrible, no e-learnings. We always depended on the partner if they knew something. So that's always been challenging. That changed in Business Central. The knowledge base is excellent. Microsoft is also providing free trials of Business Central only for 30 days, but also Microsoft has free e-learnings now. In the case of Optimus, our library is over 200 e-learnings that we've done on a weekly basis. We do a live web training with a consultant, but we'll do AP and AR and PayPal and machine learning, and we'll keep on doing it during the year. And then the following year on a weekly basis, we record that and we put it in our knowledge base. So our knowledge base complements Microsoft and Microsoft complements our knowledge base too. So getting that self-help that we're used to going to YouTube today, I'm going to install a new part in my car and now we can go to YouTube and you become a mechanic for 5 minutes. Same thing is now available. Data migration. So I'm calling this a upgrade. An upgrade is when you plug in NGP and then you jump from versions and the consultants work in the background and then you upgrade, and when you go live, your user interface changes, you have some new reports, you may have some new functionality in there, right? A migration is when I go from Microsoft to SAP and all of a sudden the system's totally different and the workflows and everything else, and it's an implementation of a new system. So hypergrade is a term Optimus came up with because we're in the middle ground here. Both systems, GPE and Business Central, they use similar technologies as Office, Power BI, user interfaces. If you're in a modern GP user interface and a modern Navision, Nav, they're similar. Business Central really sticking it up a notch because of all the embedding of the Power BI and the data. Right? It's similar. It's coming from Microsoft SQL, the copy and paste that's similar. And Microsoft has invested some R&D with tools. So let's say in Business Central, we have Rabbitstone. Those of you that are GP Integration Manager, this is Integration Manager on steroids. So we can create a utility where we can pull information from GP and bring it over here to Nav. Something else, Business Central. Something else, Microsoft has some queries. We have our own. We have different tools and Excels and templates from pulling information. So you're able to pull more information at the GL level, the detail level, from GP and Solomon, and then bringing it over. We also have a third-party tool. So we have somebody here from in Jamaica. We'll do the introduction soon, and they actually pull data from GP into Business Central. So there's different tools where we're able to do that move. So it's not a big jump like implementing an SAP, but it's not a small jump as doing an upgrade. So that's why we call it a hypergrade. But there's tools, there are experience that works. So this is more information on what the predefined packages. We can send that over that have already been done, or Microsoft has done, or we've done to migrate people over. We're just going to jump. So we have a customer in the they're called Freshmart. They They had GP for many years. They also use Counterpoint and their point of sale, everything on SQL. They had a lot of clocks. They always had issues trying to get data out of the system. And they moved from GP to Business Central. Before they had 12 people in purchasing, now they have 2. With this whole COVID thing, it's hard to get employees now everywhere. Just came from Europe. It's the same thing in Europe. And, this is a great case study of, using the system when we can't find people. And not only they went from 12 people in purchasing to 2, something that they did is their inventory they threw out because of stockouts and expiration dates and spoilage went down over 50%, 50. Their inventory and safety stock. So that's all the inventory we buy to keep it so we don't run out for our customers. And that also causes spoilage or data expirations when we have too much. They took that down over 30%. So that's 30% less in capital that was stuck in inventory. And then the other thing that was very interesting about this is they were able to cut by over 50% their stockouts at the stores, at the warehouse. So customers were able to get what they wanted with less people buying, with less spoilage. And all of this was because of Business Central and artificial intelligence that they started using in there. So it works. This customer is in Puerto Rico, so it's an island similar to what we live on a day-to-day basis. But they also have the same requirements as in the U.S., where you have the FDA and the Department of Health and all the different requirements and food and sourcing that they have in the U.S. I want to leave you with some thoughts. Number one is, I get a lot, if it ain't broken, why fix it? GP, Mav, Solomon, they're great systems. They're not broken. They're just 1980 systems. And, sometimes that method of thinking of it, if broken, why change it? We see it like in companies like JCPenney, JCB, Kodak. A lot of the people, the millennials and the Z generations, they don't know who Kodak is, right? So Toys R Us actually disappeared from the map. Now they came back as an e-commerce company. And now in Target and other retailers, they're opening up little stores within there. So Toys R Us, from having the whole toys market, they disappeared completely. So, if it ain't broke, why fix it? It's not about fixing things. It's about evolving. That's why I'm tying this back into digital transformation. 5, 10, 15 years ago, Facebook was not bigger than China. So, things have changed. We have to digitally transform. This image here, the car, when it first came out in the US, they used to make fun of the car, calling it a carriage without a horse. And people would laugh at it. How far will a carriage without a horse get? Okay, then what ended up having to the carriage. So when I'm in Plant City, Florida, where it's farm country, or I'm driving through the country in Wyoming or Minnesota, I don't see carriages. I see Ford F-150 pickups. So autonomous is coming. Different ways of making deliveries is coming. I don't want to beat COVID. Like we keep on beating it and trying to scare people, but let's say 20 years from now, we get another scare, or 10 years from now, 5 years from now, believe me, we'll see Amazon driverless cars delivering stuff in front of our houses. So there's no contact. Actually, that's a picture taken in California. There's more than one company right now doing driverless. If you go to Las Vegas, like I went for New Year's, you'll see driverless taxis driving people through Las Vegas. And right now, the Boring Company, Tesla's company, they built underground tunnels connecting different hotels in Las Vegas, and you get on a Tesla car and it'll drive you through there and get you to the other end. So things are changing, and it's no longer 75 years as it used to be.
Yes.
And I am not. You can raise the volume, please. Significant. Oh no, wait, that was a video. Could you go back and raise the volume? So I'm not a Steve Ballmer fan. I am a Bill Gates fan, and I am a Satya Nadella fan. So this is a real life interview.
Steve, let me ask you about the iPhone, Zoom, if I may. Zoom is getting some traction, and Steve Jobs goes to Macworld and he pulls out this iPhone. What was your first reaction when you saw that?
Fully subsidized with a plan. I said, that is the most expensive phone in the world. And it doesn't appeal to business customers because it doesn't have a keyboard, which makes it not a very good email machine.
How many of you have keyboards in your phone today, right? So Steve Ballmer really missed it. Satya's getting it. He stayed behind. He was complacent, right? It didn't need to get fixed. And Microsoft missed the Microsoft phone bandwagon. Satya's doing a great job of collaborating now with iPhone, Android. Dynamics is integrated, and so is Office, doing a great job there. And the future is great for mobility. So Walter Deming, Mark Twain, right? When you have data in different places, we're seeing how Microsoft Business Central has brought all the data in one place. A lot of you here who have GP right now in Solomon, some of you are fortunate to have something in your BI, and your IT department and consultants had to bring stuff over, and there's a lot of work behind there, and it's very hard work. And some of you have warehouse management systems, and some of you have retail, and the data is never there on a real-time basis. And a lot of times when you get the information, it's 3, 5, 10 days late. So if you're going to be in a purchasing department and you're going to go from 12 people to 2 people, you have to do things differently. And that's our case in point. It's one source, one truth. So with that said, can you go back to it's an ugly slide? Yeah. So with that said, we're gonna thank everybody who came online. For your participation, stay on there because there's going to be a raffle. Although the raffle over here in Jamaica with the live people is a lot better than the one you're getting. But and we're going to have wine over here, tasting panel. So I want to thank everybody for participating out there on the cloud. Don't leave this event right now because there's going to be a raffle. So I know Michael Rana and the rest of the team is going to take care of it. So we're disconnecting. Thank you.